If I lost everything tomorrow, here's exactly what I would do to start earning £10,000 a month from Airbnb using the rent-to-rent strategy. We're going to go through things step by step, so don't expect any fluff or fairy tales, just things that actually work in 2025. You may or may not know at this point that me and my partner Holly, we run a 6-figure Airbnb business, and we've built this up over the last 5 years. Using the knowledge and experience that we've gained over those last 5 years, we now help other people get started in rent to rent. And that is probably why you're watching this video. So stay tuned, and hopefully you'll be able to take some stuff from this that will help you get started or scale to £10,000 per month. Okay, so the first thing that I would do on this journey is sort out my mindset. Now, I know that sounds really, really cliche, but the fact of the matter is, when people get started, they aren't fully committed. They think that this is a side hustle and it requires little time and attention. And yeah, once you've got your first property or first few properties, you can take a step back and allow the business and the automations to run. But if I'm being completely honest, you need to put in 110% effort to get this business off the ground. When I first got started, I had a huge mindset issue, and I didn't believe that landlords would trust me with their property. So I wasn't fully committed to solving landlords' problems. I just thought I wanted to take their property and make more money off of it than they did. Of course, now I know that's not the case. Landlords have genuine problems, and we can solve a lot of those headaches for them. So you need to forget about thinking, I need a deal. You need to get out of that mindset and start thinking about, how can I now solve a landlord's problem? And the reason that this is important is because the second that you solve a problem for them, you can start generating income from their property, a property that you don't even own. We've always said that rent to rent isn't a property business, it's a people business. And the sooner that you learn that, the faster you're going to be able to grow. And what I mean by this is people buy off people. So that when you approach a landlord, make sure that you're coming across professionally, but being yourself, being genuine. That is what's going to allow you to build connections and relationships and scale up down the line. Okay, let's talk about strategy now. If I had to start again, here's the 3 things that I would focus on and focus on quickly. The first port of call would be understanding different focus areas. Typically, I would look within an hour's drive of where I live, and I'd choose 3 focus areas and start to do some number crunching. So the way that we can figure out if an area is going to be profitable or not is using a tool like Airbnb. It's completely free, and it gives us an idea of what occupancy rates and nightly rates look like in that area. So I can figure out with the average nightly rate and the occupancy, the data pieces that I need in order to see the full picture. The full picture is revenue minus monthly costs. So monthly costs, that's things like rent, it's council tax, it's bills, okay? And I can basically work out if average nightly rate times the occupancy, so let's say it's £150 per night, times 70% occupancy, which comes to about £3,150. And then if I deduct my monthly costs, so let's say minus £1,500 for rent, plus another £500 on bills, it brings me to a total profit of £1,150. That is a great deal, and that's only at 70% occupancy. Imagine if we can push for a higher occupancy rate than what Airbnb is giving us. The next thing that I would do is have a clear understanding of what solution I'm bringing to a landlord. We want to make it clear to landlords that they're getting some serious benefits out of coming with a company let compared to an AST, which is a long-term tenant, okay? The fact of the matter is, most landlords just want their mortgage paid on time, and they do that through charging rent. If we can suggest to a landlord that instead of us taking this property on for 12 months, which is what an AST would do, we want to take it on for 3 to 5 years. The reason why this is so beneficial for the landlord is because landlords hate void periods. So every time a tenant moves out, they usually have a couple of months where they're searching for a new tenant and they're not making any money. By saying to a landlord that you're going to take the property on for such a long period of time, essentially wipes out that headache of void periods for the next 3 to 5 years. So it's a massive win-win. A lot of landlords have said to us in the past, well, what happens about damages? Because everyone expects that an Airbnb is for stag do's and hen do's and parties. It's not the case at all. In fact, in the last 5 years that we've been operating, we've only ever had one party which we got a noise complaint for. That was the worst thing that happened. But what we can say to landlords is we have insurance policies in place. And this is completely true. When you get started rent to rent, we need to make sure that we are insured. So the property that we're taking on is insured for contents, public liability and professional indemnity, but also we get covered from platforms. So Airbnb has something called air cover and Booking.com has a very similar one. These are insurance policies up to £1 million that covers us from the guests that they send to us. And last but not least, landlords just want to know that their property is going to be taken care of. So what can we say to allow them to believe that? Well, what we're going to offer to them is the fact that the property is going to be getting professionally cleaned more than once a week. And this is completely true because when you've got your property in place and your systems and automations there, part of that is having a reliable cleaning team. You're not going to be cleaning the property yourself every time a guest checks in and checks out. So by having a professional cleaning company come in to do the changeover, we're essentially refreshing the property, and they can also highlight if there's any maintenance to do or any damages that need reporting. We can make this even more believable to the landlord by saying that it's imperative for our business that the property stays in a 5-star condition. If we let standards slip, well, our reviews slip, and then we're left with no bookings. So hopefully that gives you a bit of an idea of what you can say to landlords to convince them to allow you to rent their property. And the last thing that I would have in place is a clear indication of who my target audience is. This is super, super important because we need to know who we're staging and furnishing this property for and really understand the person that wants to be booking. By understanding the person, that means that we can shape the property up and attract those people in. To take this an extra mile, you can basically create an avatar. So I'll give you an example of this. Let's say it's a modern, clean looking building, but we can elevate it slightly with some decorations like feature walls and artwork. We then want to think about who our guest avatar is. So we can paint them as someone who is a managerial for a big corporate company, or perhaps they're tourists and they're staying for a long weekend, but they do quite well and they're here for a nice, expensive, luxurious city break. By having a guest avatar in place, it allows you to attract the right type of guest for your property, thus increasing average nightly rates and occupancy. Now, deal number 1 is the hardest one to get, but trust me, once it's over the line, it gets a lot easier. Right now, you need to forget about that 10K a month. What you need to understand is a proof of concept. Does this actually work? So in my opinion, what I would do is target a small city apartment like a 2-bed. Something modern, something clean, and preferably furnished as well. This is going to be great for professionals, contractors, and tourists. We'd furnish it to a high spec, but cost effectively. When we took on our first ever unit, we really cheaped out on furniture and it ended up costing us a lot more in the long run. Once that first unit goes live, I'd focus on getting reviews in as soon as possible. Reviews are your priority in month 1. So a quick tip for you, I would suggest offering heavy discounts for those first few bookers. Now, we've secured the first property, great. We're over the line, we've got bookings coming in. How do we now turn that £1,000 a month profit into £10,000 a month? Well, the maths is quite easy. We need 10 solid units producing £1,000 profit each month. This is the way that I would do it with as little risk as possible. Firstly, I'd hone in on a specific area. We've already got one property performing. Why not expand where we know it works already? The idea here is you want to become a market expert. The next thing that I want to do is put in place a small power team. So this would be something like a plumber, a handyman, a virtual assistant, and a cleaning team. Anything where the property can go wrong, or anytime the property needs something where a person physically has to be there, we want to know that we can get someone to the property within a short time frame just by calling or texting. And thirdly, I would keep up the landlord outreach. We don't want to stop once we've got the first property, and so many people fall into this. They get the first property up, they leave it for 3 to 4 months before they think about getting another property. If that is already working, don't take your foot off the gas. Keep up communication with landlords and letting agents. From the first time that you spoke to them, check in with them every 2 weeks. This will keep you at the forefront of their mind so that when a property does become available, we'll guess who they're going to think about first. And before you know it, after the second property has gone live, landlords and agents are going to start calling you back, suggesting other properties that you can take on. All of a sudden, you're a trusted local supplier. And believe me, It only takes a handful of letting agents and landlords to really scale up your business to 20, 30, maybe even 50 units. We ourselves only work with 3 landlords and 2 letting agents, and we're running over 20 properties. Okay, so let's talk numbers because this is what everyone wants to know. Let's say a good 2-bed apartment generates between £2,500 to £3,000 in revenue. Minus your monthly outgoings, which would be rent and bills, let's call this around about £1,500 to £2,000. That's going to give you a monthly profit of around £1,000 to £1,500 per unit. 10 units operating at this is going to give you that profit margin of around £10,000 to £15,000 per month. And once you hit that level, well, your focus shifts. It goes from hunting for deals to protecting your time. That is the point where you really need to implement some strong systems and processes to automate all of the business operations. And thus, it allows you to scale up smartly. So that's pretty much covered exactly how we would get from £0 to £10,000. I've spoken mainly about the positives, but here's a couple of things that I'd watch out for. The first mistake that we've made in the past is dealing with bad landlords. Now, I know it's not always the easiest to understand what a bad landlord looks like, but this will usually come out of the woodwork when you're doing contract negotiation. Remember, contracts and negotiations has to work for both parties. If it's very one-sided towards their side, I'd start to get wary. Another massive mistake that a lot of operators make is underestimating their photographs. Remember, your listing on Airbnb and Booking.com is like your shop window. If you are not marketing your property correctly, you're going to be overlooked. Hiring a professional photographer is an absolute non-negotiable in my book. And the last mistake that a lot of operators make is trying to do everything yourself. You can't be good at everything. So focus on your strong points and outsource the other jobs, mainly low-value tasks. If you're driving an hour to go and sort out a squeaky door, or you're going to set up a Wi-Fi router, these are tasks that your cleaning team can do, your handyman can do. Sure, it will cost you a little bit more, but is it really worth your time? By avoiding these mistakes, this will be the clear difference between a £2,000 to £3,000 operator and a £10,000 to £15,000 operator. So that is exactly how I would build a £10,000 rent-to-rent business in 2025. And as I said before, we've done this over the last 5 years and now have a 6-figure Airbnb business, but we also help people get off the ground as well. If it's of interest to you, check out our Instagram profile at benandholly_property and send us a DM there that says the word Airbnb. Or you can check out one of our mentees' success story here. We took Lisa from £0 to £6,000 profit in just 4 months. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one.